Kari Lake, rising star, potentially on a Trump ticket. Who knows where that will go? And I'll ask you about that. But you, again, have not accepted the results of the election. And there is a belief that it's almost deliberate. It's like you've looked at Donald Trump and thought, you know what, there's a great way to make money and fame for myself, and that's to be an election denier. And I would simply say to you what I said to Donald Trump. I don't think it works for you guys. I don't think denying the result of democratic elections
Piers,
is an effective tool to actually win elections.
That is the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Wait till you see what Kari Lake said to Piers Morgan. It's going to fire you up like nothing else. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, and we're going to see Kari Lake go toe-to-toe with Piers Morgan on elections, the media, and the future of democracy. Hit it.
That is the silliest thing I've ever heard. That is absolutely, it's funny, actually. I campaigned 525 days across the most beautiful state in the country, Arizona, and I know the people, and I worked incredibly hard, and our volunteers and the people gathered around. It really was a movement, and you weren't here to cover it, unlike we've ever seen in politics. 72%
but you lost, Kari.
Of Arizona voters, sir, 72% of Arizona voters believe that that election, something was wrong and it wasn't honest. 72% of Arizonans. And I want to make sure, I have children, I have two children, 18 and 19 years old. I want to make sure when they grow up, we don't continue to run elections like a banana republic, where on election day, voters showed up, our voters showed up 75% to 25%, 3-1 on election day, and the machines weren't working. They printed intentionally the wrong image on the ballot, and that was meant to have the ballot spit out and rejected by the tabulators. 250,000 times on election day, more than half of the ballots were spit out.
But Kari,
by the
as you know, there's actually been no
Piers, we can't continue to run elections that way.
Kari, there's been no independent corroboration that there was anything fraudulent about this election. In fact, it's pretty clear that you lost to Katie Hobbs, your rival, 50.3% to 49.6%. And as with Donald Trump, when I said to him, where's the hard evidence? He went down all sorts of rabbit holes, but he couldn't produce hard evidence.
There's a ton of Piers. There's a mountain of hard evidence, and when we presented it in our trial, the other side didn't even dispute the evidence. They didn't. They had
but not that the election result was fraudulent,
with zero chain of custody.
Let me just stop there really quick. Kari's about to land a knockout punch, but I've just got to respond to these incessantly absurd accusations that the evidence presented at Kari Lake's trial didn't prove the election was fraudulent. You didn't prove it was fraud. You didn't prove that you won. That's not what Arizona law requires. If Arizona legal precedent were maintained, Kari Lake did not have to prove that actual fraud or maladministration of an election took place. All she has to do is show that there were irregularities, mishaps, mistakes, omissions, or other issues that bring the integrity of the election outcome into doubt, which is exactly what her legal team did. And Katie Hobbs' legal team didn't even dispute it. Their only argument was, well, it didn't matter. Those irregularities don't matter. They're normal. They don't matter. But the judge in the case imposed impossible to prove standards that go against Arizona law or beyond Arizona law. And that's precisely why Kari Lake's team is appealing the decision. And what does Piers Morgan do there? All he does is repeat evidentiary standards that go beyond what's required by Arizona law. It's maddening. All right, Kari, take it away.
Yes, well, we can't continue to run elections this way, and we know that we won, and we're going to continue to fight this in a court of law. And it's really rich that you're sitting across the pond acting like you know what happened on Election Day. I did not see your smiling face. We had lots of international media here covering Election Day in Arizona. Yours is one face I didn't see, and nor did I see it.
You could have had my smiling face, Kari, if you'd
when
asked me
Arizonans...
nicely.
I would have loved to have seen you. We had more media covering our election than I've ever seen cover any story here in Arizona. And as I said, I covered Arizona for nearly 30 years. So it's okay that you are not comfortable with me fighting this election and fighting for election integrity.
No. That was a nice little zinger there. It's nothing compared to what she's about to say in a moment. You're going to love that. But that was an important observation. One of the disastrous effects of globalism is a process known as disembedding. And disembedding is simply the process whereby political and economic decision-making is increasingly dislodged and taken away from localized control and reconfigured and relocated around a centralized top-down governing elite. And so the people in local jurisdictions feel increasingly alienated from political and economic decision-making. Piers is demonstrating for us these disembedding dynamics in real time. He has nothing to do with Arizona or Arizona politics. I don't even know if he's ever even been to Arizona. And yet, from his lofty perch in a London studio, he thinks he can definitively cast aspersions on Kari Lake in what she and 72% of Arizonans believe to be a botched election. But here comes my favorite part. Here's Kari's knockout blow. First, gang, click on that link below and support the one and only Mike Lindell and treat yourself and a loved one to a warm, soft, comfortable MyPillow product. And gang, Mike has just rolled out his MyPillow 2.0, his newest version of the iconic MyPillow, now with a new fabric temperature regulating technology that keeps you comfortable all throughout the night. It's absolutely wonderful. And you get the same amazing savings as always if you use code Turley. A classic MyPillow is normally $69.98, but if you use promo code Turley, you'll get that same classic MyPillow for just $19.98. And that applies to over 200 products in their catalog. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Give the gift of comfort and warmth to yourself and your loved ones. Support one of America's most amazing patriots and get the best savings ever. Click on that link below right now.
I don't mind your fighting spirit. I don't mind it in Donald Trump. I've known him a long time.
I have every right to fight this election.
Absolutely,
this is an election
absolutely right.
contest.
But there does come a point, both for
and I'm
you
doing this for the people of
Kari,
Arizona.
there does come a point when, for the future of democracy, you and Donald Trump have to accept at some point you lost an election. Otherwise, the entire system collapses. If your simple response to losing is always, we didn't lose, we won, then democracy dies.
Piers, I grew up in a family of 9. I'm the youngest. My father was a history and government teacher and a football coach. And he taught us that if we lose, and we lose fair and square, we congratulate the winner and we walk away. And that's exactly what I would do if that was a fair and square election. But I'm fighting for the people of Arizona. I go all over this country. I've been probably to 6 states since the election. In Arizona, I can't walk 10 feet without an Arizonan saying, I voted for you. Everybody I know voted for you. Our ballot was rejected on election day. Please keep fighting for us. I'm fighting for the people of Arizona. And I don't mean any offense to you, but I frankly don't give a damn what you think about it. I'm fighting for the people of Arizona.
Listen,
I truly am.
No offense taken whatsoever.
And, well, Piers was a good sport about it. That's for sure. But that comment about this is the end of democracy is very telling. You'll notice how ridiculously one-sided that concern happens to be. Piers, if you were really so darn concerned about democracy and the future of democracy, why aren't you interviewing Katie Hobbs right now? Why aren't you tearing into her brazen and blatant breaches of at least the very appearance of election integrity? Why aren't you ripping into her decision as Arizona Secretary of State to refuse to recuse herself from overseeing the Arizona gubernatorial election and thereby put herself in charge of counting her opponent's votes, let alone overseeing a whole host of debacles and irregularities and mishaps on Election Day? Where's that interview? If you're so concerned about democracy, why aren't you grilling all of these secretaries of state and Democrat governors across the country that have intentionally infested our elections with ballot harvesting and mail-in ballots, even though the bipartisan Carter Commission years ago warned against doing such? Why aren't you grilling members of the American legacy media for launching what Barry Castleman referred to as effectively a media-driven coup d'etat against Trump, deliberately suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop bombshell or anything else that could have been potentially damaging politically to Biden? Why is this concern over the integrity of democracy always aimed in one direction? Could it be because it's just a further kind of weaponization against the people, against the very patriot forces that want to reassert their God-given sovereignty over political decision-making that affects their own lives? Every poll out there shows that Americans' trust in our establishment institutions has utterly imploded. The latest Gallup polling shows a record low level of trust for the presidency, for our medical system, for big business, for big tech, for the legacy media, the criminal justice system. We could go on and on, right down the line, from government institutions to law enforcement to media reporting to educational institutions to medical institutions, you name it. Across the board, confidence in our mediating institutions in our society is down and down dramatically. And nowhere are we seeing that loss of trust more than in the integrity of our elections. In a recent poll, only 42% of the American public had at least some confidence in election integrity. Only 16% were very confident. Piers Morgan accused Kari Lake of undermining the future of democracy. Instead, Kari, in answering those concerns, ended up showing Piers a mirror. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on on the fired Twitter executives getting arrested, very potentially, for censorship. You're not going to want to miss that. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.